Good boy. Yeah, we're having fun, huh? Getting that water. Walk. Here we are. We have got wild leeks as far as the eye can see. And this is just one area on this property. This is my family's property. We have a couple 100 acres out here in Fairfax. So all I can smell right now is leeks, like an oniony, garlicky scent. And I'm gonna start digging. Here's Ghost. He found himself a nice juicy deer bone. He just dropped it in the water and washed it off, and now he's going to be perfectly preoccupied while I do this. So, in the springtime, you want to look for these delightful creatures. Oftentimes they'll have like a purpley reddish vein that runs up through. I wish you could be here to smell it because it smells really good. And I have forgotten my tripod today, so I'm going to have to use Mother Nature as my tripod while I dig. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Hi! So here we are. I'm just going to clear a couple sticks out of the way. And these are pretty tricky to dig up. I recommend using a spade or some type of a flat shovel, something that's a bit wide. If you use a hand trowel, you're going to be in for a heck of a workout, and you might not even get the bulbs. So with leeks, you can use the leaves. You can make pesto out of them. You can make relish out of them, a paste for seasoning for soups or stir fries or whatever you want. And you can also dig up the bulbs, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get part of both parts of the plant so I can use them. I did bring some home the other day that I'm going to propagate, and so I'll also show you how to do that. You want to find a shady side of the house, something near water. So if you have any property where you have shady areas that has pretty moist soil, that's a good spot to propagate. But for harvesting, I'm going to go in here, and a lot of times you'll find these in old riverbeds, so you might get a lot of rocks. This area here I knew wasn't going to be too rocky, so I figured it'd be much easier to dig. So you see here, I've got underneath the plant pretty deep, and I'm just popping them up. And now I'm gonna grab my plastic bag for placement. I brought a couple bags, so I wasn't sure how many I would get. I've got my plastic bag. You can use whatever you want. You can use a basket if you like. I just happen to have a lot of plastic bags around, so I'm going to use that. And then I just start kind of breaking up gently. You don't want to force too much because you'll lose your bulb, because I just lost a bulb. I could feel it. So sometimes you might need to break them up a little bit. I'm going to use a stick here, because they're all very root bound. I'm just clearing the air, separating the roots a little bit. So you see here, these are all bulbs. These are filthy. So the cleaning process is a whole nother part of the video I'll show you after. But basically they grow like an onion or garlic. So they have that papery skin on the outside. So you have to, when you go in and clean them, you have to remove that. And then obviously you can use the leaves for other things. So even if you can't use them right away, you can chop them up and freeze them. You can freeze them into ice cube trays, and you can just pop them in your homemade soups or whatever recipe that you're making. Another recipe, or yes, a seasonal recipe people often talk about is wild leek soup. My grandmother used to make it. Or you can make chowders or anything and season it with the leeks instead of like regular store-bought onion or garlic. So I'm just going to keep breaking these up, and then I'm going to move on to a couple more spots, and I'm just going to fill up this entire bag. And so just another thing to know is if you are digging up the bulbs, this plant will not return. So I tend to dig from a few different spots spread out because I don't want to shock the entire area. Of course, there's more here than I could ever need. But if you're worried about regeneration, don't forage from any spots where there's only a small patch. Let that patch start to grow. Leeks take a while to spread, believe it or not. But if you are lucky enough to find a spot that's so full of leeks, then you don't have to worry too much. I would just be concerned with not going into the same spot each season. And with leeks, around this time of the year is in my opinion, is the best time because they're going to be the strongest. I mean, like I said, if you were here with me right now, that's all you can smell. You can just smell wild leeks. Nice garlicky aroma. So, and just like anything in the garlic and onion family, these are really good natural antibiotics. So if you have a fever, if you have an ear infection, anything like that, you can use it to help with that. I've also used it for ear pain. I have a tendency to get ear infections. So I have used it for that, and it doesn't take much. If you do it regularly, you won't have much pain at all. And I'm just sort of putting the soil back a little bit, so that way some of this new growth can take over and will provide more leeks for years to come. So up next, I will show you how to clean and prepare. And here's Ghost helping. He saw me digging and he was like, I can do that. What's in there? Hey, hey. So here we are. We've got a nice looking harvest here. Sweet. All right. So, how to clean your wild leeks. So, you do have to clean each one individually, so there's no getting around that. These are going to have a lot of dirt on them. Of course, you do want to shake them out as much as you can before you put them in your bag. But anything that comes out of the forest, out of the wild, I figure it's not going to hurt. Clean it off a little extra. And you can clip the roots once you prep it for either storage or for pickling or sauteing. That's got a lot of dirt on that one. So I'm just rinsing some of the dirt, and then you'll see here there's this papery like stuff that grows on the outside like an onion or garlic. You just take that off, get off as much dirt as possible. You're going to give these a soak again afterward. If you have access to an outdoor sink, I highly recommend having the outdoor sink. Would make life much easier. But on a day like today, it's barely 40 degrees. It was pretty chilly. We got some snow squalls while we were out there digging. So it would have been a little chilly to run an outdoor sink in that type of temperature. So I'm going to finish up with these, and then I'll be back to show you the next step. And lastly, see, these are all cleaned up. I did tear some of the roots off of some of them. Sometimes they snap right off, but I've snapped the entire leek in half before, so that was kind of a bummer. So I try not to do that very often, but If they come off easily, sometimes you can just do that. But we're just gonna let these soak in some water for a couple minutes here, just get any remaining bits of soil off, and then I'm gonna put them in a strainer, and I'll show you how you can store them or cook them. Okay, so the last part is if you aren't going to do anything with them right this moment, let's just say that that was enough, because it is very time consuming, very labor intensive, then you can just store them for later use. So just make sure as you go through that you've got all the little papery pieces off. And you might still find some here and there. It's a long process to get certain wild plants cleaned completely. So I personally like to pickle these, but some people like to saute them, and I have done that in a stir fry. And then the leaves, so you would pickle the bulbs, but if you wanted to do something with the leaves, you can make a pesto. You could make potato leek soup. It's a very strong flavor, like nothing you could ever get in a grocery store. Those who are experienced in trying wild edibles will definitely understand that. Wild berries tend to have a more robust flavor, but this is such an intense, garlicky, slight onion. That's what it tastes like to me. So I got a bunch ready. And then I've got some paper towels, and I'm going to just get them wet. And then I've got my Tupperware. Then you simply lay out the paper towels, roll these babies up inside, and then you can place it in your Tupperware. Of course, the leaves are a little long, so you might have to maneuver things in there a little bit. And then that's it. Okay, so I'm here on the shady side of my house. I've just dug a hole, and you can see some of this Japanese knotwood. It's everywhere. It's such an invasive species. But anyway, this is the side of the house where nothing has really come up yet, but I do have 3 species of fern, including the ostrich fern, that grow pretty well here. We have lily of the valley. I've got some yellow violets a little bit farther up, but all pretty, shade friendly or partial shade friendly plants. So this is a perfect spot because this the soil holds a lot of moisture here too, which will be good for the leeks. So I've taken my leeks. See this clump here? I just didn't take the dirt off intentionally because I knew I wanted to plant some. So I'm going to stick them in here in this hole, and I might put a few more in there, and then you just I'll pack the dirt and some of the moss back around the plants once I'm done, and this will come back year after year. So that's how you propagate.